Their pursuit continued regardless of cost or distance. The memories showed hegemony vessels following Zephyrian refugees through nebulas, around black holes, across dead systems. They never tired, never hesitated, never negotiated. Their commitment to purification appeared absolute. The last memory fragments showed the 12 surviving ships making their desperate jump toward the one system the hegemony hadn't yet contaminated. Ours. Morrison understood the implications immediately. By offering sanctuary, Earth had placed itself directly against a galaxy-spanning empire. The hegemony wouldn't see humanity as rescuers. They would see us as contaminated by association. Our solar system had become a quarantine zone we refused to enforce. The tactical displays changed completely. Threat assessment now showed potential hegemony entry vectors from multiple directions. Their technology suggested they could appear anywhere without warning. Standard defensive preparations seemed suddenly inadequate against an enemy who could rewrite local physics. The rescue operation continued, but the context had shifted. Every tractor beam adjustment, every course correction happened with new awareness. They weren't just saving refugees. They were challenging an empire that had purged hundreds of species across millennia. The energy readings from the Zephyrian ships now carried additional meaning. They represented survival against impossible odds. Earth's decision to help had consequences far beyond Morrison's ship. The entire planet now stood between refugees and their hunters. Military command received the new data in silent acknowledgement. No further orders came to abandon the rescue. The line had been drawn. Humanity would protect those the galaxy had rejected. The hegemony's approach vectors appeared on long-range sensors within hours. Perfect formations moving at impossible speeds. Their course showed no deviation. They were coming for the Zephyrians, and now for Earth. The rescue mission had become the first battle in a war we never asked for but couldn't avoid. The hegemony arrived exactly as the last Zephyrian ship reached optimal solar orbit. Their silver spheres appeared without transition, forming perfect geometric patterns around Earth's solar system. No warning, no approach vectors. One moment empty space, the next instant an armada of perfect spheres blocking sunlight. Their formation showed absolute precision, each ship positioned with mathematical exactness. Admiral Cross received the transmission directly to his command console. The message bypassed all standard communication protocols, appearing simultaneously on every screen in Earth's defense network. The hegemony ambassador identified itself as Zarketh. Its voice contained no emotion, only absolute certainty. The translation software struggled with concepts that had no human equivalents. Zarketh's demands allowed no discussion. All energy-based lifeforms must be surrendered immediately. All technology derived from their biology must be confiscated. Any human exposed to their influence must undergo purification. The ultimatum gave Earth one planetary rotation to comply. The translation indicated this period represented maximum reasonable accommodation for flawed biological thinking. The message contained no threats. It simply stated consequences. Failure to comply would result in the hegemony taking what they required by force. Their terminology suggested they wouldn't conquer Earth so much as sanitize it. The translation used medical terms: contamination, quarantine, sterilization. Humanity's compassion appeared in their analysis as a dangerous infection, requiring treatment. Weapons locks activated across the hegemony fleet. Targeting systems simultaneously acquired every human vessel near the Zephyrians and the refugee ships themselves. The tactical display showed hundreds of perfect red lines connecting hunters to prey. The hegemony made no distinction between rescuers and refugees. Both categories represented violations of cosmic order. Cross watched the targeting solutions develop on his screen. His command staff waited silently. The ultimatum timer counted down in the corner of every display. 23 hours, 14 minutes remaining. The numbers advanced with relentless precision. The Admiral's response required no consultation. Earth's position had been established when Morrison chose rescue over protocol. Cross opened a general channel to all human forces. All units, defensive posture. Protect the refugee vessels. No offensive actions unless fired upon. The orders went out in clear text, knowing the hegemony would intercept them. Then he responded to Zarketh directly. Earth refuses your demands. These beings are under our protection. We will defend them. The message went out on the same frequency the hegemony had used. their own perfect communication system now carrying humanity's rejection. The Hegemony response took microseconds. Their formation shifted from blockade to attack configuration. The perfect spheres reoriented, their surfaces opening to reveal nothing inside except darkness. Energy readings spiked across monitoring systems. The translation software produced one final message before overloading. Purification begins. Human defense ships move to shield the Zephyrians. Energy screens activated around the crystal ships that were only now beginning to glow with solar nourishment. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. Refugees finally receiving life-giving energy while facing extermination. Cross watched the tactical display. His decision had committed Earth to a war against an enemy they didn't understand. The Hegemony vessels advanced with perfect synchronization. Their movement showed no hesitation, no uncertainty. They operated like a single entity with absolute purpose. The first energy beams lanced out from the leading spheres. They didn't look like weapons fire, more like precise surgical instruments cutting through space. Human defense screens flared where they intersected the beams. The conflict had begun, not with negotiation or misunderstanding, but with absolute ideological opposition. Earth had chosen compassion over conformity, and now would pay the price. The engineering team received the crystal fragments with utmost care. The Zephyrians had offered them freely through energy manipulation, small pieces separating from their main structures without damage. The fragments glowed with internal light, warm to the touch and humming at frequencies barely audible. Standard scanning techniques revealed almost nothing. X-rays passed through without reflection. Molecular analysis showed perfect lattice structures with no identifiable atomic composition. Engineer Chen set up containment fields around the samples. His instruments registered energy flows that contradicted known physics. The crystals absorbed solar radiation without heating up. They emitted controlled energy bursts without power sources. When placed near electrical systems, they synchronized with the current without any physical connection. The energy meters showed zero conversion loss, something impossible in human technology. The real breakthrough came when Chen accidentally touched a crystal while taking measurements. The fragment responded to his biological electrical field. Its internal glow brightened exactly where his fingers made contact. It began pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Further testing confirmed the connection. The crystals didn't respond to electronic controls. They reacted to living biological impulses. Thought patterns, emotional states, even subconscious biological rhythms influenced their energy output. Human power systems suddenly appeared primitive by comparison. Our reactors lost 60% of energy through heat dissipation. Transmission lines leaked power across great distances. Battery technology remained limited by chemical constraints. The Zephyrian crystals stored energy indefinitely without loss. They transmitted power through resonance rather than conduction. Their efficiency approached 100% where human systems struggled to reach 40. Chen worked for 72 hours without sleep. He developed interface protocols using biosensors instead of traditional circuitry. The first test connected a crystal fragment to a standard ship's power conduit. The results shattered all expectations. Energy output increased tenfold without additional fuel consumption. The system didn't just work, it harmonized. The crystal adapted to the ship's power needs instinctively, adjusting output without commands. The implications revolutionized everything. Weapon systems that had strained power reserves now operated at maximum capacity indefinitely. Shield generators maintained full strength without overheating engines. Life support systems ran with emergency reserve power always available. The technological leap that should have taken decades happened in less than a week, all because humans accepted help instead of seizing technology. Collaboration proved more valuable than conquest. The Zephyrians shared their understanding through energy patterns rather than technical manuals. Human engineers learned to think in terms of resonance and harmony, rather than force and control. The crystals worked best when approached as partners rather than tools. Their responses improved with trust and familiarity, almost as if they recognized intention behind actions. The first fully integrated ship systems went online as the Hegemony fleet advanced. Human vessels now glowed with the same internal light as the Zephyrian ships. Power readings showed efficiencies the enemy could not match. The technological gap that had seemed insurmountable suddenly reversed. What began as humanitarian aid became strategic advantage. The refugees had given humanity the tools to defend them. Sensor arrays picked up the new contacts drifting in from multiple vectors. 27 unknown signatures this time, all showing similar damage patterns to the Zephyrian ships. Hull breaches, energy leaks, systems failing. Each group approached at sublight speeds, their propulsion either damaged or exhausted. The coordination center scrambled to track them all, their screens filling with emergency icons. The Athetheran ships looked like shattered mirrors floating through space. Their surfaces reflected distorted images of everything around them. Sensors showed them existing partially in other dimensions, their physical forms shifting between reality states. They communicated through dimensional harmonics that made navigation systems fluctuate. Their presence warped local space in subtle ways that affected instrument readings. Mandari vessels appeared as smooth black spheres that absorbed all light. They transmitted no conventional signals, only direct thought patterns that appeared in the minds of nearby beings. Communication officers reported sudden understanding without hearing anything. They knew the Mandari were refugees. They felt their exhaustion. Their transmission contained no words, only concepts of pursuit and desperation. The experience left human recipients with headaches and temporary sensory confusion. Each new group brought confirmation of the same pattern: hegemony persecution across multiple star systems. Their stories varied in details but shared the same structure. Discovery of unusual abilities, hegemony detection, purification fleets arriving, forced exile or extermination. The Zephyrian energy transmission had traveled farther than anyone expected. It carried not just distress signals but coordinates. Earth's location became known across the galaxy as a place that helped rather than hunted. The scale of the crisis expanded beyond any contingency plan. 27 species, over 200,000 individuals. All required immediate medical attention. All needed protection from pursuing hegemony forces. Each group had different biological requirements, different environmental needs, different communication methods. The coordination center became a chaotic blend of translation software, medical triage protocols, and emergency housing calculations. Military mobilization shifted from fleet engagement to planetary defense. Every available ship received refugee protection assignments. Civilian infrastructure converted to alien habitation. Medical facilities prepared for unknown physiologies. The entire planet geared up for an influx of refugees that doubled every few hours. Command centers operated on emergency power, their staff working through fatigue with stimulants and determination. The hegemony response intensified with each new arrival. Their fleet deployments showed increased numbers and aggression. Patrols encountered hegemony scout ships probing defensive perimeters. Their tactics evolved from precise strikes to overwhelming force applications. The coordination between different hegemony units tightened, suggesting centralized control adapting to the growing resistance. Earth's position solidified through necessity rather than choice. We became the only safe harbor in known space for species targeted by the hegemony. Our solar system transformed from human territory to galactic sanctuary. The responsibilities escalated from protecting 12 ships to safeguarding hundreds of vessels containing beings with capabilities we barely understood. The human crew that had started with a simple rescue operation now coordinated with energy beings, dimension shifters, and telepathic species. Our technology interfaced with crystal matrices, dimensional projectors, and thought amplification systems. The learning curve was vertical. The stakes were existential. The commitment was absolute. Planetary mobilization meant every nation contributing resources, every industry adapting to new requirements, every citizen understanding that Earth had chosen a side in a galactic conflict. The transformation happened faster than anyone could have predicted. From first contact to planetary defense in less than a week, from one captain's decision to a world's commitment. The refugee convergence continued unabated. More damaged ships emerged from jump points. More strange vessels limped into the solar system. More beings sought sanctuary from the same hunters. Humanity faced protecting dozens of species while learning their capabilities and needs. The crisis had escalated beyond military engagement to something entirely new. Planetary-scale humanitarian operation under siege. Dr. Lewis worked through genetic records and technology schematics from all 27 species. Her analysis programs highlighted connections that shouldn't exist: energy manipulation, dimensional travel, telepathic communication. These capabilities appeared across completely different evolutionary paths. The pattern suggested common origins rather than parallel development. The Zephyrian crystal technology shared structural similarities with Athetheran dimensional projectors. Both systems used crystalline matrices that responded to biological input. The Mindari telepathy networks operated on resonance principles that matched Zephyrian energy transmission methods. Even the Hygameni's perfect geometric formations appeared derived from the same underlying physics, though applied toward control rather than cooperation. Each species carried fragments of something larger. The Zephyrians mastered energy conversion. The Athetherans understood dimensional boundaries. The Mindari developed collective consciousness. Their abilities complemented each other like pieces of a puzzle. Separate, they represented unusual talents. Combined, they suggested something revolutionary. The ancient legacy emerged from comparative analysis. Millennia ago, a progenitor species had developed these capabilities to their full potential. They hadn't hoarded their knowledge. They'd scattered it across galaxies, embedding fragments in different species' genetic codes and technological development paths. Their intention appeared clear: prevent any single civilization from gaining absolute power while preserving the knowledge for future reunification. The Hygameni doctrine suddenly made terrible sense. Their purity crusade wasn't about random prejudice. They feared the reassembly of these capabilities above all else. Their entire civilization was built around preventing what was now happening at Earth. Their persecution targeted species carrying specific genetic markers and technological aptitudes. They weren't eliminating random deviations. They were systematically destroying pieces of the legacy. Earth had become the accidental gathering point. Human compassion had created the exact scenario the Hygameni feared most. Different species with complementary abilities now shared technology and knowledge. The recombination was happening faster than anyone could track. Zephyrian energy systems enhanced Athetheran dimensional projectors. Mindari telepathy improved coordination between different technologies. Each day brought new integrations. Protecting refugees now meant preserving galactic heritage. The conflict transformed from political disagreement to existential struggle. The Hygameni weren't just enforcing arbitrary rules. They were trying to prevent the resurgence of capabilities they considered too dangerous for any civilization to possess. Their extreme measures reflected their absolute conviction. Dr. Lewis's findings reached command levels within hours. The implications reverberated through strategic planning. Defense preparations now included protecting the knowledge itself, not just the beings who carried it. Security protocols extended to research facilities and integration projects. The stakes had elevated beyond individual species survival. The refugee species began recognizing the connections themselves. Zephyrian elders shared energy patterns that matched Athetheran historical records. Mindari thought transmissions contained references to the same progenitor species. Their separate histories converged on the same origin story, a civilization that chose distribution over domination. Humanity's role shifted again. We weren't just providing sanctuary. We were facilitating the reassembly of something ancient and powerful. Our solar system became the laboratory where fragmented knowledge reformed into coherent understanding. The responsibility weighed heavily on every scientist and engineer involved. The Hygameni intensified their attacks accordingly. Their fleet movements showed new urgency. Their tactics shifted from containment to eradication. They targeted research facilities and integration projects specifically. Their intelligence clearly understood what was happening behind human defenses. Earth's position became absolutely clear. We would protect the legacy along with the refugees. The conflict was no longer about political differences or military dominance. It was about whether ancient knowledge would be preserved or destroyed, whether collaboration would be allowed to flourish or be crushed under absolute control. The transformation affected everyone involved. Scientists worked with renewed purpose. Military personnel understood they defended more than territory. Refugee species collaborated with new determination. They weren't just saving themselves. They were honoring the ones who had given them these gifts millennia ago. Dr. Lewis watched the latest integration test. Zephyrian crystals powering Athetheran projectors. Coordinated through Mindari thought networks, the system worked with seamless efficiency that surpassed anything previously imagined. The pieces were fitting together. The legacy was awakening, and Earth stood at the center of it all. The engineering teams worked in shifts around the clock. Human designers collaborated with Zephyrian energy specialists. Athetheran dimension theorists, and Mandari communication experts. Their task was impossible on paper: create a combat system that could withstand the Hygamany's perfect coordination. The solution emerged not from any single species' technology, but from their integration. The Unity protocol linked ships through multiple connection layers. Crystal technology formed the physical network, creating resonance bonds between vessels. Dimensional projectors allowed ships to share spatial coordinates across reality states. Telepathic networks enabled instant crew coordination, without transmission delays. The system didn't just connect technology. It merged capabilities into something entirely new. Individual species had proven vulnerable. Xaperian energy weapons lacked precision targeting. Athetheran dimensional shifting caused navigation errors. Mandari telepathy couldn't handle combat stress overload. Separate, they offered partial solutions. Combined, they created overwhelming advantages. The protocol's first test showed staggering results. Energy manipulation enhanced dimensional travel efficiency by 400%. Ships could phase between dimensions while maintaining weapon accuracy. Telepathic coordination allowed thousands of vessels to act as single entities. Reaction times dropped to near instantaneous levels. The combined fleet moved with coordination that rivaled the Hygamany's perfect formations. Combat operations transformed under the new system. Ships existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions, appearing at different coordinates without travel time. Weapon systems responded to biological impulses rather than computer targeting. Crystal technology amplified energy beams while dimensional projectors ensured perfect accuracy. The Hygamany's mathematical precision met adaptive intelligence that learned and evolved during engagements. The first full deployment changed everything. Hygamany spheres approached in their perfect geometric patterns. The combined fleet activated the Unity protocol. Human Athetheran hybrid ships phased through dimensional layers while Xaperian enhanced weapons targeted Hygamany weak points. Mandari telepaths coordinated countermeasures across thousands of vessels simultaneously. The Hygamany response showed confusion for the first time. Their perfect formations broke under multidimensional assault. Their weapons fired at coordinates where ships had been milliseconds before. Their defensive systems couldn't track vessels existing in multiple reality states simultaneously. The protocol's adaptive nature meant every Hygamany tactic was countered before fully deployed. The battle lasted 47 minutes. The Hygamany fleet withdrew from solar space, their perfect retreat formation showing cracks and irregularities. Sensor logs recorded their communication attempts, fragmented signals suggesting disbelief and recalibration. They had encountered something their doctrine hadn't predicted, something their databases couldn't categorize. Unity proved stronger than uniformity. The combined fleet's diversity became its greatest weapon. Different capabilities complemented each other's weaknesses. Adaptive thinking outperformed perfect calculation. The tactical innovation rendered previous combat doctrines obsolete. Every military organization began reevaluating fundamental assumptions about warfare. The strategic implications extended beyond the immediate victory. Refugee species now contributed actively to their own defense. Human commanders learned to think in multidimensional terms. The protocol continued evolving as more species integrated their capabilities. Each addition strengthened the whole through unique perspectives and technologies. The Hygamany withdrawal gave Earth breathing space, but everyone understood this was temporary. The protocol had proven effective, but the enemy would adapt. Preparation continued without pause. Engineering teams refined the system based on combat data. New species added their capabilities to the network. The Unity protocol became the foundation of solar defense, a living system that grew stronger with each integration. Engineers began repurposing the combat systems almost immediately. The Unity protocol's coordination capabilities showed potential far beyond warfare. The same connections that allowed ships to share targeting solutions could distribute resources across continents. The dimensional projectors that created tactical advantages could also reshape environments for habitation. What began as a military innovation became something much larger. The transformation started with weapon systems. Energy projectors designed to disable Hygamany shields were recalibrated to clear atmospheric pollutants. Their precise emission controls could break down toxic compounds without harming surrounding environments. Defensive screens that blocked energy weapons were reconfigured as climate control barriers, creating stable environmental conditions for refugee settlements. The tools of destruction became instruments of preservation. Armor plating underwent the most dramatic change. Battlefield protection systems were repurposed as habitat modules. The same materials that withstood plasma attacks now provided radiation shielding for vulnerable species. Modular defense platforms became emergency housing units. Manufacturing facilities that produced warships started turning out residential sections. The production lines ran continuously, but their output changed from weapons to shelters. Dimensional manipulation technology revolutionized construction. Projectors that allowed ships to phase through solid matter now assisted in rapid assembly. Builders could position structural elements with perfect precision across multiple reality layers. Terraforming operations that would have taken decades happened in months. Barren moons became habitable worlds through coordinated dimensional engineering. The technology that provided tactical superiority now offered environmental restoration. Telepathic networks expanded beyond military coordination. The same thought links that enabled instant combat responses now facilitated cross-species communication. Language barriers dissolved as concepts transferred directly between minds. Cultural understanding developed at unprecedented speeds. Medical knowledge spread through thought networks, allowing healers from different species to share techniques instantly. The networks became universities without walls, hospitals without boundaries. The Hygemeni monitored these developments with increasing alarm. Their intelligence feeds showed the Unity protocol evolving in ways their doctrine deemed catastrophic. The synthesis of different technologies represented the ultimate violation of cosmic purity. Their communications indicated heightened concern about the contamination spread. Their previous attacks had focused on military targets. Now they began targeting civilian infrastructure and construction projects. Human engineers worked with refugee specialists to protect the new systems. Defense screens were integrated into environmental projects. Early warning systems were connected to settlement networks. The same protocols that coordinated fleet movements now managed planetary development. The line between military and civilian applications blurred until it disappeared entirely. The transformation represented a fundamental shift in how power was understood. Energy that could destroy was redirected to create. Technology designed for control was repurposed for cooperation. Systems built for separation were reconfigured for connection. The very definition of strength evolved from domination to collaboration. Refugee settlements flourished under the new systems. Superior energy technology provided clean power for entire cities. Athetheran dimensional projectors created stable living spaces in previously uninhabitable areas. Mandary telepathic networks enabled perfect social coordination. Each species contributed their unique capabilities to the collective welfare. The tools of war became the foundations of peace. Battlefield coordination systems managed resource distribution. Weapons manufacturing facilities produced medical equipment. Military research departments developed environmental solutions. The massive investment in conflict technology now served entirely different purposes. This redefinition of power's purpose extended beyond physical systems. Strategic planning shifted from conquest to development. Tactical analysis focused on problem-solving rather than target acquisition. The entire concept of security expanded to include environmental stability and social welfare. Protection meant more than military defense. It meant ensuring quality of life for all species. The Unity protocol continued evolving, its applications limited only by imagination. Every day brought new discoveries about how combined capabilities could serve peaceful purposes. The technology that had saved them from the hegemony was now building something worth saving. The instruments of destruction had become tools of creation, and in that transformation they found their true purpose. The awakening spread through the galaxy like a resonant frequency. Earth's defense of the refugees became a signal that couldn't be ignored. Hidden species emerged from decades of concealment, their ships appearing at the edges of monitored space. They'd been watching, waiting. The Hygemeni's control had kept them silent for generations. Now they saw an alternative. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Stellar nomads whose ships rode solar winds like ancient mariners, world singers who communicated through planetary vibrations, life-weavers who cultivated biological technologies in deep space. Hundreds of species revealed themselves across multiple star systems. Each brought their own capabilities. Each carried fragments of the same legacy. The Hygemeni reacted with brutal efficiency. Their purification fleets launched coordinated attacks across multiple sectors. Their tactics showed desperation now. They targeted communication networks in emerging colonies. They attempted to isolate Earth before the awakening could complete. Their operations became increasingly aggressive, sacrificing precision for speed. The coalition expanded beyond physical space. Dimensional travelers connected realities that had been separate for millennia. Time-shifted species synchronized their existence with the present. The coalition wasn't just spanning star systems, it was bridging reality layers. Communication happened through thought networks and resonance frequencies, rather than conventional transmission. Diplomacy became the primary engagement method. Telepathic networks allowed instant understanding between species. Cultural exchanges happened at quantum speeds. Agreements that would have taken years of negotiation were resolved in hours. The focus shifted from military strategy to social integration. Battle preparations continued, but the emphasis was on prevention rather than conflict. Earth transformed into the central hub of this new reality. Our solar system became the meeting point for species that had never interacted before. Coordination centers handled thousands of simultaneous translations. Settlement planning incorporated environmental needs across biological spectrums. The scale of operations dwarfed anything previously imagined. The technology integration accelerated exponentially. Each new species added their unique capabilities to the collective knowledge. Energy systems evolved beyond recognition. Transportation networks incorporated dimensional shifting. Communication became instantaneous across light years. The combined technological base surpassed anything the hegemony could deploy. The age of separation ended quietly. One moment the galaxy was divided into isolated species hiding from purification fleets. The next, a network of cooperation spanned known space. The change wasn't military or political. It was fundamental. A shift in how intelligent life perceived itself and its possibilities. The hegemony found themselves opposing not just Earth or the refugees, but a galaxy rediscovering its connections. Their purification doctrine faced something it couldn't categorize: unity without uniformity, diversity without division, strength through collaboration rather than control. Earth's role evolved from sanctuary to catalyst. We hadn't just protected refugees. We'd triggered a galactic-scale realignment. The awakening continued spreading. More species emerged, more capabilities integrated, more connections formed. The coalition became unstoppable through sheer momentum. The Renaissance wasn't about technology or power. It was about possibilities. Species that had been isolated for generations now shared knowledge and resources. Cultural barriers dissolved as understanding spread. The galaxy became smaller and larger simultaneously, more connected yet more diverse. The hegemony's intensity couldn't match the awakening's pace. Their attacks continued, but their effectiveness diminished. They faced opponents who adapted instantly through shared knowledge. Their perfect formations met flexible responses that evolved during engagements. The balance of power shifted permanently. Earth stood at the center of this transformation. Our solar system hummed with activity from hundreds of species. Construction projects transformed planets and moons. Energy networks spanned entire systems. The tools of war were barely recognizable as they were repurposed for creation. The age of unity had begun, and humanity had chosen its direction. The last hegemony fleet arrived in perfect formation, their silver spheres blocking starlight for millions of kilometers. This wasn't another raid or probing attack. This was their entire military force committed to one objective: complete eradication. Supreme Overlord Sexath led them personally, his command sphere positioned at the exact center of the formation. They advanced with absolute synchronization, their movement calculated to overwhelm through perfect geometry. The combined defense forces appeared hopelessly outmatched. Human vessels alongside Zephyrian crystals, Ethetheran dimensional shifters, and Mandri thought ships formed defensive lines around Earth. The numbers showed a 3-to-1 disadvantage. Tactical projections indicated probable defeat within hours. The hegemony had brought their full strength, and it showed in the perfect alignment of their approach vectors. Then the Unity Protocol activated across all ships simultaneously. The connection wasn't just between vessels anymore. It linked species, technologies, and capabilities into something entirely new. Crystal technology merged with dimensional projectors. Telepathic networks integrated with energy systems. The separate components became a single coordinated entity that existed across multiple reality layers. Reality itself seemed to fluctuate around the battling fleets. Space-time distorted in patterns that defied physics. Hegemony weapons fired at coordinates that no longer existed. Their perfect formations encountered defensive screens that phased between dimensions. The combat became less about firepower and more about conceptual understanding. The Unity Protocol didn't just counter hegemony tactics, it redefined the battlefield itself. Weapons fire transformed in mid-trajectory. Hegemony energy beams intended to destroy instead became healing radiation that repaired damaged refugee ships. Their containment fields, designed to eliminate targets instead, stabilized failing life support systems. The very technologies built for purification were converted into instruments of preservation. The transformation happened without commands or controls. It emerged from the protocol's integrated nature. Armor plating reconfigured during combat operations. Battlefield protection systems unfolded into diplomatic chambers where negotiations could occur. Defense screens became communication interfaces. Weapons platforms transformed into medical facilities. The physical reality of the conflict changed as the Unity Protocol reinterpreted the purpose of every system it touched. The tools of war became the instruments of peace right before the hegemony's censors. Supreme Overlord Sexath's command sphere remained silent for 17 minutes after the transformations began. Their perfect formation had become chaotic as their systems reacted unpredictably to the protocol's influence. Then his transmission reached all ships simultaneously. Not a surrender announcement, not a ceasefire request, a simple question about the technology's operating principles. The response came through the protocol itself, not from any single species or commander. The combined understanding of all allied beings provided the answer through demonstration rather than explanation. They showed how diversity created strength, how collaboration enabled capabilities no single species could achieve, how unity didn't mean uniformity. The hegemony fleet didn't surrender to defeat, they surrendered to understanding. Their weapons systems powered down not because they were disabled, but because their purpose had become irrelevant. Their perfect formations broke apart not from attack, but from reevaluation. Victory came through conversion rather than destruction. The enemy didn't cease to exist, they ceased to be enemies. Sexath's final order instructed all hegemony vessels to stand down and prepare for integration. Their ships began the same transformation the Allies had undergone. Weapon systems reconfigured for peaceful purposes. Armor plating became habitat modules. The technology that had enforced purity now supported diversity. The fleet that had come to destroy instead joined the growing coalition. The final confrontation ended without massive casualties or widespread destruction. It ended with a fundamental change in perspective that spread through the hegemony ranks like resonance through crystal. The transformation began with their weapons. Hegemony energy projectors that had sterilized worlds were recalibrated to restore atmospheres. Their containment fields that erased entire civilizations now stabilized damaged ecosystems. The technology built for purification became the foundation for environmental restoration. Engineering teams from multiple species worked alongside former enemies, their collaboration cautious but determined. Former hegemony soldiers underwent intensive retraining. Their discipline and coordination made them effective peacekeepers. Their understanding of military tactics helped prevent conflicts before they started. They learned diplomacy through immersion in the coalition's diverse cultures. The transition wasn't smooth. Old prejudices surfaced during tense moments. Former refugees sometimes reacted with understandable hostility. The integration required constant mediation and patience. The hegemony databases represented their greatest contribution. Centuries of galactic surveillance contained detailed records on thousands of species. What they had collected for control purposes became a library of shared knowledge. Their perfect archival systems preserved cultural information that many refugees thought lost forever. The databases were opened to all coalition members, their contents freely accessible. Cooperation replaced coercion as the organizing principle. Decisions were made through consensus rather than command. The cosmic purity doctrine was formally abandoned after months of debate. Celebration of diversity became the new foundation for galactic relations. The change wasn't instant or universal. Some hegemony factions resisted the transformation. Others embraced it with unexpected enthusiasm. The galaxy reorganized around mutual uplift. Resources were directed toward helping struggling species rather than controlling them. Technology sharing became standard practice. Knowledge exchange happened without restrictions. The focus shifted from domination to development. Former enemies worked together on reconstruction projects. Damaged worlds were restored using combined technologies. Refugee settlements received support from across the coalition. The new order faced continuous challenges. Cultural differences sometimes created misunderstandings. Resource allocation required complex negotiations. Security concerns remained despite the peace. But the commitment to cooperation held. Conflicts were resolved through dialogue rather than force. Problems were addressed through collective effort. The Hygameni's transformation was most visible in their leadership. Supreme Overlord Sexath became an advocate for the new approach. His strategic mind now focused on development rather than conquest. He worked directly with species his forces had previously targeted. His influence helped convince remaining holdouts to join the coalition. Galactic society evolved rapidly under the new principles. Transportation networks expanded to connect previously isolated systems. Communication systems allowed instant contact across light years. Economic models shifted from competition to collaboration. The tools of control were repurposed for connection. The instruments of domination became means of cooperation. This reorganization represented the ultimate rejection of the old ways. The pursuit of perfection through purity was replaced by strength through diversity. Uniformity was abandoned in favor of complementary capabilities. Control gave way to collaboration as the path to advancement. The galaxy had chosen a different direction, and the results were already visible in the thriving communities that spanned star systems. The transformation was neither perfect nor complete, but it was real and it was growing. Earth's transformation happened street by street, building by building. Crystal spires grew from city centers, their structures absorbing sunlight during the day and glowing with soft light at night. Phase gardens appeared where parks once stood, their flowers shifting through dimensional layers in rhythmic patterns. The changes weren't imposed. They were integrated through careful planning and mutual agreement. Human architecture adapted to accommodate new needs while preserving historical character. Traditional human culture faced significant adjustments. Daily life now included interactions with dozens of species. Restaurants served meals for different biological requirements. Public spaces were designed for varied environmental needs. Language barriers disappeared through translation technology, but cultural differences remained. The adaptation required patience and understanding from everyone involved. Humans learned new social customs while sharing their own traditions. Superior energy systems revolutionized power infrastructure. Entire continents ran on clean stellar energy with zero emissions. The crystal network stored excess power indefinitely, eliminating blackouts and energy shortages. Former power plants were repurposed into community centers and manufacturing facilities. The energy revolution happened so completely that younger generations barely remembered fossil fuels or nuclear power. Athetheran dimensional technology changed transportation fundamentally. Commuters phase shifted between locations without vehicles. Goods moved through dimensional corridors instantaneously. The technology eliminated traffic congestion and reduced travel time to near zero. Former highways became green spaces connecting communities. Transportation infrastructure was repurposed for recreational and environmental uses. Mandary telepathy created unprecedented understanding between species. Communication happened through shared concepts rather than translated words. Misunderstandings decreased as intentions became clear. Cultural exchange accelerated through direct experience of different perspectives. The telepathic networks required adjustment periods, but the benefits became obvious quickly. Human empathy expanded to include entirely new modes of thinking. Medical knowledge combined techniques from 47 species. Hospitals incorporated healing methods that used energy manipulation, dimensional alignment, and biological resonance. Diseases that were once fatal became treatable through combined approaches. Lifespans increased across all species. Medical research advanced exponentially through shared knowledge. The hybrid medical system became the galaxy's most advanced. Education systems incorporated millennia of galactic history. Students learned about civilizations that had risen and fallen across star systems. The curriculum included mathematics from silicon-based life forms, art from gas giant dwellers, and philosophy from dimensional travelers. Human history was taught alongside galactic developments. Education became a continuous process that lasted lifetimes. Earth became the capital of united galactic civilization through natural evolution rather than design. Our planet's central location and neutral history made it the logical meeting point. The coordination centers handled interstellar governance, trade agreements, and cultural exchange. The role brought responsibilities and challenges, but also opportunities for growth and development. Humanity's choice to help refugees had remade our world completely. The decision that began with one captain's compassion had transformed Earth into something beyond recognition, yet fundamentally familiar. Our cities reflected galactic diversity while maintaining human identity. Our technology served peaceful purposes while preserving our values. The transformation proved that helping others didn't mean losing ourselves. It meant finding our proper place in a larger community. Dr. Santos reviewed the final data correlations across 43 species. The patterns aligned too perfectly for coincidence. Energy manipulation, dimensional awareness, telepathic communication. These weren't random evolutionary developments. They were pieces of a design. The legacy had a purpose beyond mere knowledge preservation. It was meant to reassemble. The Forerunners had scattered their gifts intentionally across millennia. Their records suggested they feared concentrated power more than lost knowledge. They embedded fragments in different species' genetic codes and technological paths. Their strategy ensured no single civilization could dominate others through superior capabilities. The separation was a safeguard against tyranny. The eventual reunification was their hope for galactic advancement. The hegemony represented the system's failure condition. They had interpreted purity as exclusion rather than protection. Their doctrine enforced separation through force. They hunted the very diversity the Forerunners had cultivated. Their perfect order was the opposite of the intended outcome. They became the guardians of stagnation rather than the stewards of progress. Earth's accidental role became clear through the analysis. Human compassion had triggered the reassembly process. Our willingness to help refugees created the conditions for integration. The collaborative approach matched the Forerunners' deepest intentions. We hadn't just preserved the legacy, we had activated its purpose. The Great Awakening continued spreading across known space. Thousands of worlds joined the growing network. Species that had hidden for generations now shared their capabilities. The knowledge exchange accelerated at exponential rates. The legacy fragments combined into something greater than their individual parts. The galaxy was rediscovering its connections. Humanity's role shifted from catalyst to participant. We hadn't directed the transformation, we had enabled it. Our solar system became the meeting point not through design but through circumstance. The coordination required continuous adaptation and learning. The responsibility was shared equally among all species. The legacy's true purpose emerged through its application. Combined capabilities solved problems that had plagued individual species for centuries. Environmental restoration happened at unprecedented scales. Medical advancements eliminated previously incurable conditions. Transportation networks connected previously isolated civilizations. The benefits were tangible and widespread. The Forerunners' fear of knowledge hoarding proved justified in the hegemony's example. Their attempt to control and restrict had nearly destroyed the legacy entirely. The contrast with Earth's open collaboration showed the wisdom of the original design. Sharing produced advancement where restriction caused stagnation. This outcome was the legacy's purpose from the beginning. The scattered fragments were meant to find each other when the galaxy was ready. The Forerunners had planted seeds across star systems, hoping they would grow together when conditions were right. Their trust in eventual cooperation was their greatest legacy. Humanity became part of something larger than our own history. Our decision to help refugees aligned with a design millennia in the making. The transformation wasn't our achievement alone. It was the culmination of countless species' contributions. The legacy continued through daily collaboration and shared progress. The galaxy had found its way to the future the Forerunners had envisioned. Daily life on Earth now means sharing space with beings from across the galaxy. Ordinary people work alongside dozens of species in offices, factories, and research facilities. The morning commute might include riding dimensional shifters with Athetheran colleagues, or sharing thought space with Mandaree partners. The adjustment requires constant flexibility. Human social norms are continually adapting to new biological needs and cultural practices. What was extraordinary last month becomes routine this week. Athetheran phase dancers perform in public squares, their movements flowing between dimensions. They teach classes in dimension-aware existence at community centers. Humans learn to perceive multiple reality layers simultaneously. The training is disorienting at first. The brain must rewire its spatial recognition pathways, but the benefits become clear quickly. Dimensional awareness prevents accidents in mixed species environments. It also enhances problem-solving capabilities. People report seeing solutions that were previously invisible. Superior crystal singers gather at dawn in city parks. Their voices modulate energy patterns into visible light displays. Starlight art forms above crowds, shifting colors and shapes in response to audience emotions. The performances are both entertainment and energy therapy. The crystal frequencies help balance biological systems across species. Human doctors prescribe attendance for stress-related conditions. The art has measurable health benefits beyond its beauty. Public spaces are designed with crystal resonance points to amplify these effects. Mandarin thought weavers serve as conflict mediators in workplaces and neighborhoods. They don't just translate words. They convey intentions and emotions directly. Misunderstandings that would take days to unravel through language are resolved in minutes. Their presence has reduced legal disputes by 80%. Court systems now use ThoughtWeaver panels for complex cases. The direct transmission of experience makes deception nearly impossible. Justice has become faster and more accurate. Former hegemony technicians maintain environmental control systems across cities. Their perfect precision ensures climate stability for all species. They work alongside engineers they once hunted. The partnerships are sometimes tense but increasingly productive. Their technical expertise is unmatched. They've redesigned atmospheric processors to accommodate 47 different respiratory needs. Air quality has improved for everyone as a result. Their redemption is measured in clean air and stable ecosystems. Children learn multiple communication methods from their first years. Education includes verbal language, energy modulation, dimensional signaling, and thought transmission. The young adapt faster than adults. Their brains develop neural pathways that older generations must train painfully. Schoolyards echo with the sounds of laughter in multiple frequencies. Playgrounds have zones for different biological needs. Friendships form across species boundaries without prejudice. The extraordinary has become ordinary through daily practice. People don't marvel at phase-shifting commuters anymore. Crystal art is just part of the cityscape. Thought weaving is a standard communication tool. The age of unity maintains itself through integration rather than effort. What began as conscious adaptation has become unconscious habit. The galaxy feels smaller and more connected. Earth has become home to thousands of species, and humanity has found its place among them. The transformation is complete because it's no longer remarkable. It's just how life is. Admiral Morrison watches the galactic development maps from his command center. The displays show thriving colonies and trade routes instead of battle formations. His face shows the weight of decisions made years earlier. Some still question his choice to break protocol that first day. Their arguments appear in official reports and private conversations. They cite the risks of contamination, the potential for disaster, the violation of established procedures. Their concerns are mathematically sound but emotionally hollow. The Zephyrians now orbit Earth's sun in perfect formation. Their crystal structures glow with absorbed solar energy. What were once dying hulls now serve as living embassies. Their surfaces shift with patterns of light that communicate across species boundaries. They host diplomatic meetings and cultural exchanges. Their energy signatures pulse with health and stability. The rescue operation seems distant history compared to their current vitality. Former hegemony overlord Sexath serves as ambassador to newly contacted species. His perfect geometric approach to diplomacy proves unexpectedly effective. He understands isolationist mentalities from personal experience. His conversion from persecutor to peacemaker represents the galaxy's transformation. He sometimes meets with Morrison to discuss outreach strategies. Their conversations are brief but productive. Former enemies working toward common goals. Unity protocol technology has moved beyond military applications. The systems now heal worlds damaged by ancient conflicts. Energy projectors restore atmospheres on planets scarred by warfare. Dimensional stabilizers repair tectonic damage from orbital bombardment. The tools that won a war now preserve peace across star systems. The technology improves with each application, its capabilities growing through continuous use. Humanity's compassion triggered this galactic-scale transformation. The decision to help refugees started a chain reaction that reshaped interstellar relations. What began as a single rescue operation became a movement. The choice to value life over procedure changed everything. The risk seemed enormous at the time. The potential consequences were terrifying, but the alternative was unthinkable. The galaxy has become something better than anyone predicted. Cooperation has replaced conflict as the default interaction. Diversity is celebrated rather than feared. Technology serves life instead of controlling it. The transformation required difficult choices and personal risk. People like Morrison faced career termination and possible imprisonment. Their courage created a new reality for billions. Choosing help over harm proved to be the correct path. The promised benefits have materialized beyond expectations. Trade networks flourish where blockades once existed. Cultural exchange happens where purification was enforced. The galaxy functions as a collaborative system rather than a competitive one. The improvement is measurable in economic growth and quality of life indicators. The risk was worth taking. The potential disaster never materialized. Instead, humanity gained allies instead of enemies. Earth became a center of galactic civilization. Our technology advanced centuries and decades. Our understanding of the universe expanded exponentially. The decision to help those in need brought unexpected rewards. Morrison sometimes visits the Zephyrian embassies. He watches their crystal surfaces glow in sunlight. The memory of those damaged ships seems like another lifetime. The fears of contamination and invasion have faded into historical curiosity. What remains is a galaxy transformed by a simple choice. Help those in need. Protect the vulnerable. Trust compassion over fear. The results speak across light years. Earth became sanctuary for those the galaxy had exiled, discovering its purpose through that compassion. The old divisions ended when Morrison chose empathy over procedure, curiosity over suspicion. His decision sparked a transformation that reached across star systems. Today's unity grew from that single act of courage. This story shows that strength isn't measured in destruction, it's built through cooperation. What we create together outlasts what we break apart. The cosmos changed because one person refused to see strangers as threats, and in welcoming them we found our place among the stars. At current depletion rates, Dr. Ward calculated the decay curves, maybe 12 hours before critical collapse. Their cellular matrices need constant energy infusion. They've been running on reserves for weeks. Now they're starving. The solution appeared simultaneously on multiple screens. Solar radiation analysis showed Earth's sun could provide exactly what they needed. The specific wavelength and intensity matched the Zephyrians' required nutrient spectrum. But they needed to get close, within Mercury's orbit for full effectiveness. Their current position at the solar system's edge might as well be another galaxy, for all the good it did them. Engineering confirmed the grim mathematics. The Zephyrians lacked the energy for any meaningful propulsion. Their current velocity would take months to reach helpful solar distances. By then, only dead crystal husks would remain, drifting forever with their silent cargo. The bridge crew understood completely now. These weren't explorers or invaders. They were refugees who had fled some catastrophe, using their last reserves to reach a system with a compatible star. They hadn't come to conquer, they'd come to survive. And they were failing. Morrison's earlier decision took on new weight. Firing on these beings would have been like shooting patients in a hospital ward. The military protocols designed to protect humanity from threats had nearly caused them to commit mass murder against desperate refugees. The tactical officer spoke first. We could use tractor beams to accelerate them sunward. Our engines have enough power to get them to effective range within 8 hours. Her console already showed the calculations: fuel consumption, trajectory adjustments, energy requirements. The weapons officer followed. Defensive screens could be reconfigured to create energy collection fields around them. Buy them some time during transit. His hands moved across the console, repurposing combat systems for life-saving. The entire encounter transformed in those moments. Battle stations became rescue coordination centers. Threat assessment protocols became medical monitoring systems. Every person on the bridge understood they weren't facing an invasion. They were witnessing a tragedy unfolding at their doorstep. And they had the means to stop it. Morrison's command console lit with a priority transmission from Earth Defense Command. The message appeared in stark official text alongside the Admiral's verification codes. Maintain minimum safe distance. Initiate full quarantine protocols. Await specialized containment team arrival. Standard operating procedure for unknown alien contacts. Every word emphasized security, isolation, and threat mitigation. The orders made perfect sense on paper. Unknown biological contamination risk. Potential technological hazards. Possible hostile capabilities. The regulations had been written after centuries of speculation about first contact scenarios. They assumed every unknown represented danger. They accounted for military threats, biological risks, psychological warfare. They didn't account for dying refugees. Dr. Ward stood beside the captain's chair, her medical tablet showing the latest life sign readings. Their energy signatures have dropped 14% in the last hour. At this rate, they won't survive the waiting period. She pointed to the main display where the Zephyrian ships drifted, their crystal structures visibly dimmer than when first detected. Containment protocols would be a death sentence. The bureaucratic process unfolded on another screen. Earth Command required risk assessment reports from 3 different departments. Scientific evaluation teams needed to be assembled and dispatched. Diplomatic Corps demanded consultation. The estimated timeline showed 72 hours minimum before any decision could be made. The Zephyrians had perhaps 12 hours before critical energy collapse. Morrison watched the fading life signs on his own display. 8,000 individual energy signatures, each representing a living being. The numbers scrolled in a steady downward progression. Protocol demanded he treat them as potential threats. His eyes told him they were patients dying in his emergency room. The communications officer received another update. Command confirms standing orders, Captain. Maintain position and await containment specialists. They're emphasizing the potential risk of energy-based contamination. Dr. Ward's voice remained clinical but urgent. There's no contamination risk. Their energy signature is clean radiation, almost identical to solar output. They're not dangerous. They're starving. Morrison looked around the bridge. Every officer watched him, their faces reflecting the same conflict. Training said follow orders. Humanity said help those in need. The red alert lights still flashed, but now they illuminated a moral dilemma rather than a combat situation. The captain's console displayed the potential consequences of disobedience. Court-martial proceedings, removal from command, possible imprisonment. The military justice system had strict penalties for officers who violated direct orders during first contact scenarios. Then he looked at the main screen again. One of the Zephyrian ships pulsed with a faint glow, then dimmed further. The life signs monitor registered another group of signatures dropping below sustainable levels. Morrison opened a channel to engineering. Prepare tractor beam arrays. Calculate optimal acceleration curve to get these ships within effective solar range. He switched to navigation. Plot course for inner system transit. Best possible speed. The bridge crew responded instantly, their training overriding their uncertainty. Systems that had been configured for combat, now reconfigured for rescue operations. Tractor beams engaged with the crystal ships, their energy fields gentle against the fragile structures. Morrison recorded a formal response to Earth Command. Unable to comply with standing orders due to medical emergency. Taking refugee vessels to solar orbit for life support. Accept full responsibility for this action. He didn't wait for a response before closing the channel. The ship moved forward, pushing the 12 crystal formations toward the distant sun. Behind them, military protocols remained unfulfilled. Ahead, 8,000 lives might be saved. The decision had been made. Humanity would choose compassion over caution. The Zephyrian distress signals contained more than cries for help. Deep within the fragmented energy patterns, communication specialists found something else. Memory fragments. Not words or images, but raw experience encoded in energy fluctuations. They showed pursuit, organized, systematic hunting across light years. The galactic hegemony appeared in these shattered memories as perfect geometric formations. Their ships moved with absolute synchronization, their patterns never varying. They didn't chase, they converged. Their tactics showed mathematical precision, eliminating escape routes with cold efficiency. Every maneuver calculated to exhaust prey before capture. Their doctrine emerged from intercepted energy patterns. The hegemony believed in cosmic purity, a universe where species developed along approved evolutionary paths. Any deviation from biological norms represented contamination. Energy manipulation violated natural law. Dimensional travel disrupted cosmic harmony. Telepathy broke species boundaries. These abilities weren't advancements. They were abominations requiring eradication. The Zephyrians' crystal-based energy metabolism made them primary targets. Their very existence contradicted hegemony doctrine. Their ability to convert stellar radiation directly into life energy represented the ultimate violation. The memories showed hegemony purification fleets systematically destroying Zephyrian feeding grounds, then hunting the survivors across star systems. Hegemony ships appeared in the memory fragments as perfect silver spheres, no visible weapons ports or engines, just flawless surfaces that emitted containment fields. Their technology worked through absolute control of local spacetime. They didn't blast targets, they simply made them cease existing. The memories showed Zephyrian ships disappearing into perfect geometrical patterns that collapsed into nothingness. 12 alien ships drift at the edge of our solar system, their hulls cracked and leaking strange energy. Captain Jake Morrison sees them not as invaders but as refugees. His order echoes through the ship. Red alert, but nobody fires. This moment could spark war or salvation. What happens next redefines humanity's place in the cosmos. The bridge hummed with instrument noise and tense focus. Sensor Officer Chen broke the quiet first. 12 unknown contacts bearing 327. No propulsion signatures, drifting at solar escape velocity +6. His hands moved across the console, pulling up magnification. Faces turned toward the main screen as the images resolved into something impossible. These weren't human designs. They didn't resemble any theoretical alien craft either. The ships looked like broken crystal formations, their surfaces faceted and irregular. Energy bled from fissures in their hulls, glowing gas venting into the vacuum. Strange symbols shifted across their surfaces like liquid light, patterns that changed when you tried to focus on them. One moment they looked mathematical, the next they seemed almost biological. Captain Morrison's eyes stayed fixed on the screen. His face showed nothing, but his knuckles were white where he gripped the command rail. Every military protocol demanded immediate defensive measures. The tactical officer already had weapons systems coming online, her voice tight as she recited standard threat assessment procedures. Unknown vessels on intercept course with inner system. Recommend raising shields and preparing engagement protocols. The silence that followed stretched too long. Every crew member watched Morrison, waiting for the standard response. Hands hovered over controls, ready to execute the commands that would turn this peaceful observation into a combat situation. The tension built with each second, the only sound the steady beep of tracking systems. Then Morrison spoke, his voice low but carrying across the entire bridge. Red alert! All hands to battle stations. He paused just long enough for the warning lights to begin flashing. But nobody fires unless I give the order. The weapons officer's head snapped up. Sir, protocol requires— I know what protocol requires. Morrison's eyes never left the main screen, where the damaged ships continued their slow drift. Those vessels aren't powering weapons. They're leaking atmosphere and energy. Look at the sensor readings. Those are life signs fading, not weapons charging. Across the bridge, crew members exchanged uncertain glances. The tactical officer kept her hands poised above the fire control systems, every instinct trained to treat unknowns as threats. The security team stood ready at their posts, weapons checked and positions secured. But the captain's order had created a divide between training and observation, between what they were supposed to do and what they were actually seeing. Morrison moved to the science station, pointing at the energy readings. That's not weapon discharge. That's life support failure. Those symbols aren't identification markers, they're distress patterns. He turned back to face his crew, his decision solidifying even as he spoke it aloud. We'll maintain defensive readiness, but we won't fire on damaged vessels without confirmation of hostile intent. The red alert lights continued to flash, but the battle stations now held their positions without activating weapons systems. The bridge crew watched the strange crystal ships, their understanding shifting from potential threat to possible emergency. Protocol said one thing. The evidence suggested another. In the silence between heartbeats, humanity's first contact decision was being made not by procedure, but by a captain's instinct. Communication officers worked through every protocol. Standard first contact packages went out in 50 languages, mathematical sequences, chemical compositions, even basic imagery of Earth and our solar system. Each transmission met with the same response. chaotic bursts of light and energy that made no logical sense. The main screen showed patterns shifting too fast to track, like watching broken glass catch sunlight. Lieutenant Evans shook his head at his console. "It's just noise, Captain. No syntax, no repetition, no discernible pattern that matches any known communication system." He played the latest signal through the bridge speakers, a jagged series of high-pitched tones that fluctuated wildly in intensity. "If they're trying to talk, they're using concepts we don't have reference points for." Dr. Ward leaned forward, her medical background shifting her perspective. "Wait. Run that last sequence through a biometric filter." Her fingers moved across her own display, pulling up medical monitoring protocols. "Look at the amplitude fluctuations. They match distress patterns. Not communication, vital signs." The chaotic signals resolved into something entirely different when viewed through medical parameters. The energy spikes corresponded to pain responses. The fluctuating patterns mirrored biological stress indicators. These weren't attempts to communicate, they were screams translated into energy wavelengths. A species crying out in a language of pure sensation. Then patterns emerged through the suffering. Prime number sequences appeared like beacons in the chaos. Fibonacci progressions emerged and collapsed. Each mathematical pattern lasted only moments before dissolving back into the distress signals, like someone trying to send a message while drowning. The signals weakened with each transmission. The energy readings dropped steadily on the main display. What began as intense bursts became faint flickers. The mathematical sequences grew shorter, less coherent. The entire bridge crew watched the life signs monitor as it tracked the fading signals from all 12 ships. Morrison watched the data stream. "They're not hailing us. They're dying." The realization changed everything on the bridge. Weapon systems went from standby to powered down. Medical teams received alert notifications. Engineering began calculating energy transfer protocols. Dr. Ward's analysis confirmed the terrible truth. They're energy-based life forms. Their ships aren't vessels. They're physical extensions of their biology. The crystal structures are literally their bodies, and they're starving. She pointed to the energy leakage readings. "That's not engine bleed. That's them literally dissipating from lack of power." The shift from military threat to medical emergency took less than 3 minutes. Battle stations became triage coordination points. Threat assessment consoles now monitored life sign stability. The communication officers stopped trying to decipher language and started analyzing metabolic rates. Captain Morrison opened a ship-wide channel. "All medical personnel report to emergency stations. Engineering, prepare for energy transfer operations." These aren't hostile contacts. They're refugees in critical condition. The red alert light still flashed, but now they signaled a rescue operation, not combat readiness. The bridge crew worked with new urgency. They weren't preparing to fight unknown invaders anymore. They were racing to save lives that were fading faster with each passing second. The strange crystal ships weren't weapons. They were patients in the galaxy's largest emergency room, and humanity had just become their doctors. Dr. Ward recalibrated the medical scanners for non-carbon-based life forms. Her screen showed energy signatures instead of heartbeats, radiation patterns instead of breathing. "They're not in ships," she said, her voice flat with realization. "The ships are them. The crystal structures are their physical forms. They're living constructs that feed directly on stellar radiation." The energy readings told a terrible story. Each Zephyrian's crystal lattice was breaking down from power starvation. The beautiful faceted surfaces weren't hull plating, they were exoskeletons. The glowing gas leaking into space wasn't engine exhaust, it was vital energy bleeding from their bodies. Their technology wasn't weapon systems. Those projections they'd mistaken for turrets were actually nutrient intake arrays, designed to absorb star energy, and they were all failing. Sensor resolution improved as they got closer. Each ship contained not dozens but hundreds of energy signatures, all fading at the same rate. The larger crystal formations housed entire families or communities. Their life forces interconnected through the same failing systems. They weren't traveling together, they were dying together. The communication signals made sense now. The chaotic patterns were pain responses from beings who communicated through energy modulation. The mathematical sequences were desperate attempts to use universal concepts before consciousness failed. Each transmission grew weaker, because the beings sending them were literally dissipating into the void. Morrison watched the main display where energy levels continued dropping. "How long do they have?"